You slept 8 hours. You drank 3 coffees by noon. You crashed at 3 p.m. like you have every day for 2 years. The day a doctor finally tests your cortisol curve, the morning peak will be missing, and you will learn what your adrenals stopped producing at 4 a.m. for the last 700 mornings. This is not depression. This is not laziness. This is not aging. This is your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the wiring inside your skull that decides when your body wakes up, running its 6th consecutive year of overtime and beginning to stop responding to its own signal to make cortisol. Most people will never test this. Most doctors will not order the test. You will learn the word for what is happening to you. On average, 11 years after the first morning you woke up tired for no reason. Today we walk down all 7 stages: the chemistry, the symptoms, the blood work, and the exact point at which the curve becomes hard to reverse. Stage 1 starts the first time your body decides something is dangerous. A car cuts you off in traffic. A meeting goes wrong. A child screams in the next room. A signal travels from your eyes and ears to your hypothalamus in less than 100 milliseconds. In 90 seconds, less time than it takes you to read this sentence twice, your hypothalamus has fired, your pituitary has answered, and 2 triangular glands the size of walnuts sitting on top of your kidneys have flooded your bloodstream with cortisol. You did not decide any of this. The car cutting you off decided it. And here is the part that matters. The same circuit fires when a Slack notification lights up your phone. Your heart rate climbs. Your liver dumps glucose into the bloodstream. Your immune system pauses. Your digestion shuts down. Your pupils dilate. Your muscles get an emergency supply of fuel they did not earn. You are now ready to run, fight, or freeze. This is the system working perfectly. Cortisol is not the villain. Cortisol is the hormone that keeps you alive when the lion appears. The design specification is 6 minutes. 6 minutes of crisis followed by 6 hours of recovery, repeated maybe 2 or 3 times in a week. The body that built this circuit was a hunter-gatherer who saw 1 acute threat on a bad day and 0 on most. The system was never built for the inbox. Stage 2 begins the first month you stop ever feeling truly calm. You check email before you brush your teeth. Your boss texts you at 9 p.m. The news is bad. The phone vibrates twice during dinner. You think about money on the drive home. You scroll through other people's lives before bed. None of these are lions. All of them tell your hypothalamus to release CRH. So cortisol, the hormone designed for 6 minutes of crisis, now drips constantly. Morning, afternoon, evening, through dinner, past midnight. Your cortisol level at 11 p.m. is now what your great-grandparents' level was at noon during a wartime air raid. Sleep gets shallower. Wounds heal slower. You catch every cold the office passes around. You gain weight you cannot explain, mostly around the middle. You sweat at meetings. You wake up at 3 a.m. and lie there for an hour and you have no idea why. You think this is stress. It is. But stress is no longer the experience of a stressful moment. Stress is the new resting state. If you tested your cortisol now, the curve would still look almost normal, slightly elevated at every hour, but no obvious dysfunction. You would pass the blood test. You would not pass the chronic fatigue questionnaire. Your doctor would tell you to eat better and exercise more. That advice is good. That advice will not be enough. The thermostat that controls cortisol is still working, but you are about to break it. Stage 3 is the year your body stops listening to its own off switch. When cortisol is doing its job, it has a feedback loop. The cortisol traveling through your blood reaches your hypothalamus, binds to glucocorticoid receptors, and tells your hypothalamus to stop sending the signal. The CRH switches off. The cascade pauses. You recover. This is called negative feedback. It is the same principle as a home thermostat. The room gets warm. The thermostat detects the heat. The furnace turns off. Stage 3 is what happens when the thermostat has been hearing the room is warm for 2,000 hours straight. The receptors downregulate. There are fewer of them. The ones that remain become less sensitive. Cortisol can knock all it wants. The hypothalamus does not pick up the call, so cortisol keeps coming. And here is the cruel detail. You no longer feel the cortisol either. The same receptors are downregulated everywhere. In your hippocampus, in your immune cells, in your fat tissue. The hormone is in your bloodstream at high levels, but the systems that were supposed to respond to it have stopped responding. You are flooded with a chemical you cannot feel. The rest you take stops feeling like rest. The vacation stops being relaxing on day 3. The morning coffee stops working. The evening wine stops working. This is not psychological. This is receptor biology. You have not lost the ability to be calm. You have lost the ability to be calmed. There is a stage between 3 and 4 that most people live in for years. You have adapted. Ask yourself, When was the last morning you woke up before the alarm and felt actually rested? If you cannot name the month, you are already here. You hit deadlines on 6 hours of sleep. You drink 2 coffees before noon and call it normal. You have forgotten what your baseline used to feel like. And the forgetting is the diagnosis. This is the compensated middle. Your labs are still mostly normal. Your morning cortisol is technically within reference range. You are not sick. You are also not well. The danger of this stage is that nothing forces you out of it. There is no acute crisis. There is no doctor visit that ends with a diagnosis. You will live here on average for 11 years before the next stage forces a change. Stage 4 is what forces the change. Stage 4 is the year your endocrine system starts crosstalking. Cortisol does not just regulate stress. Cortisol regulates blood sugar. Cortisol is by design a hormone that raises blood glucose. That is part of its job, to get you fuel for the fight. When cortisol is high all the time, blood sugar is high all the time. The pancreas releases insulin to bring it down. The cells stop responding to the insulin because they are also flooded with cortisol, which tells them to be resistant to insulin so the glucose stays in the bloodstream for the fight that never comes. You now have early insulin resistance. The fat that gets laid down is visceral. The deep fat around your organs that is metabolically active and inflammatory, not subcutaneous fat, not the kind you can pinch, the kind your doctor cannot see on a scale. You crave sugar at 3 p.m., not because you have weak willpower, but because your cells cannot get the glucose that is right there in your bloodstream. You eat. You feel better for 20 minutes. You crash. The crash itself triggers another cortisol release. The loop closes. The endocrine system that was supposed to keep you stable now feeds itself. Stress raises cortisol. Cortisol raises glucose. Glucose triggers insulin. Insulin fails. Crash. Cortisol again. Stage 5 is the year the chemistry starts billing your body for its overtime. Cortisol is catabolic. That word means breaks down. When cortisol is chronically high, the body interprets it as a long, sustained famine. The body assumes you are running from something you have not eaten in days, and the only available fuel is your own tissue. So the body starts converting muscle to glucose. This process is called gluconeogenesis. It is happening in your liver right now, at low levels, as you watch this. In stage 5, it is happening at high levels, every day, around the clock. You lose lean mass slowly. You do not notice. You lose a few hundred grams a year. You go to the gym. You think you are doing strength work. The work is real, but it is being canceled out by the catabolism running behind it. Your resting metabolic rate drops. The amount of food that used to maintain your weight now makes you gain it. Your reflection shows something thinner in some places, softer in others, in a pattern that does not match your training. You also start losing bone density. The same process pulls calcium and protein out of bone matrix. Your dentist will notice this before you do. Early gum recession. Slow healing after extractions. Sensitive teeth. The body is eating itself to fuel a fight that ended 15 years ago. 1 year of chronic cortisol elevation is a sleep problem you blame on the news cycle. 5 years is a body composition problem you blame on aging. 15 years is a metabolic problem you blame on genetics. A thyroid problem you blame on bad lab work. And a fatigue problem that finally sends you to a specialist who orders the test that everyone else missed. Stage 6 is the year other systems start failing because of the cortisol. Cortisol suppresses immune function. That is part of the original design. When the lion appears, you do not need your immune system fighting last week's cold. You need every resource for the fight in front of you. Chronic cortisol means chronic immune suppression. You catch every cold the office passes around. You take 3 weeks to recover from things that used to take 3 days. You develop adult-onset food sensitivities. You get cold sores you never used to get. You catch shingles in your 40s. In parallel, cortisol interferes with thyroid function. Specifically, it impairs the conversion of T4, the storage form of thyroid hormone, into T3, the active form. Your TSH lab comes back normal. Your free T4 comes back normal. Your free T3 is low. Most general practitioners do not order free T3. You feel cold in rooms other people find comfortable. Your hair thins at the temples first. Count the millimeters of recession in the bathroom mirror this week. Skin, nails, brain fog until noon. 4 out of 5 doctors will run a TSH, see normal, and stop. The free T3, the lab that would actually catch you, gets ordered less than 10% of the time. You read about Hashimoto's. You read about subclinical hypothyroidism. You read about long COVID. You read about chronic fatigue syndrome. None of these are wrong. None of them are exactly your problem. Your problem is upstream of all of them. Your cortisol axis is breaking, and the failure is cascading through every system that depended on it being stable. Stage 7 is the year the adrenals stop producing the morning peak. For your whole adult life, cortisol followed a predictable curve. It rose in the dark, peaked between 4 and 8 a.m. This is what woke you up, declined through the day, and bottomed out in the evening. That peak was what made you alert. That peak was what got you out of bed. In stage 7, the peak is gone. The 4 a.m. peak is missing. The line is flat. The hormone that was supposed to wake you up did not show up for work this morning, and it did not show up yesterday, and it has not shown up for 200 mornings in a row. That is what you are feeling when you open your eyes and cannot find the will to move. It is not depression. It is not laziness. It is an empty bottle where the wake-up signal used to live. You wake up not tired but flat. The room is bright. You cannot make yourself care. You sleep 9 hours and wake up exactly as exhausted as you went to bed. Doctors call this hypocortisolism. After 15 years of overproduction, the system has retracted. The cortex of the adrenal gland has atrophied. The cells that used to make cortisol are smaller, fewer, slower. The pituitary still sends ACTH. The adrenals respond with whatever they can manage. It is not enough. This is not Addison's disease. Addison's is autoimmune destruction of the adrenal cortex and a medical emergency. This is quieter. This is the axis-wide exhaustion that 30% of treatment-resistant chronic fatigue patients turn out to have, and almost none of them get tested for. Recovery is possible. Recovery is slow. Recovery takes 6 to 24 months of total behavioral change, not a supplement. You can rebuild the curve. The adrenal cortex regrows when the demand on it drops. The receptors upregulate when cortisol levels normalize for long enough. The thyroid conversion improves when inflammation drops. The insulin response improves when visceral fat drops. The hormone curve returns gradually to the shape it had at 25, but the rebuilding does not happen in weeks. It happens in seasons. The behaviors that drive it are unsexy and well documented. Sleep 8 hours in a dark room with the phone in another room. Eat protein at every meal. Lift heavy things twice a week. Walk after meals. Eliminate caffeine after noon. Avoid all stimulants on weekends. Spend 10 minutes a day outside in morning light before checking your phone. That last one is the most important. The morning sunlight is the signal your hypothalamus uses to set the cortisol curve for the day. Without it, the rhythm never resets. With it, the rhythm can rebuild from almost any starting point. You can come back from stage 7. You can come back from any stage. But the recovery is slow, and the first day you take seriously is the day the curve starts to repair. The curve you were born with is still in there. The adrenals regrow. The receptors come back online. The morning peak rebuilds itself when you give it one signal a day, 10 minutes of light on your face before the phone. That is what separates the people who recover from the people who manage symptoms for the rest of their lives. You are not the burned out one. You are the person whose 4 a.m. peak is on the way back. Subscribe, because the next stage of this story is your thyroid, and stage 1 of that breakdown is happening right now, in the same body, for the same reason.